Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today in Death Card Tactics I will be looking at the new stats that we have leaked from assembly guides for the Blightlord Terminators. So with no further ado, let's take a look. So today, the 15th of December, Blightlord Terminator stats from assembly guide have been revealed in the internet, and thanks to the people posting the pictures on the forums. So we have new stat line and new weapon stats, mainly affecting the melee weapons of the Blightlord Terminators. It's not a full rule set, so we don't have information on abilities and their invul save. For example, abilities that previously the Aura of Rust, for example, we cannot judge from the assembly guides. So let's take a look and a quick calculation about the new stats for the melee weapons, including now the Contagion Aura -1 toughness effect and what that does for the damage output. So looking at the new stat line, we see that the Blightlord Terminators and the champion, they have a 5-inch movement, so they get +1 inch movement, like the Typhus leaked datasheet. So a lot of people are predicting that this will reduce the invul save of 4+ for our models. So maybe we cannot see it from the stat line here, but maybe going up in movement, maybe we will be losing the 4+, and maybe we only will have a 5+ invul save. But we'll, of course, like many other things, we have to wait for the codex. So the Terminators are getting +1 wound, as we have been, as Games Workshop has announced before, so no surprises there. And we get +1 attack, as all other Death Card models we have seen so far. So in my opinion, this is a pretty sure sign that we will be losing the Hateful Assault, that this keyword was not on Mortarion sheet. If we are keeping the Hateful Assault plus the 1 attack, then definitely Death Card will be getting a big buff in melee, having +1 attack across the board. But I just think this is we got 1 attack to replace the Hateful Assault that we will not be having. But all in all, it's better to have a fixed 1 more attack than relying to get the 1 attack when you were charging. So I think this overall is a bit better than the Hateful Assault. The -1, and we see then for the weapons, the Blight Launcher has changed, like we saw on the Plague Marines data sheet. The damage is now straight 2 instead of being damage D3, so all in all better against most targets, especially if you're shooting something with 2 wounds. The range of the Spewer has been increased to 12-inch, like all Plague Flamer weapons we have seen so far, and I'm still waiting to see the Blightspawn also getting the 12-inch. I think the Blightspawn's weapon hopefully will not be nerfed, and having a longer range will be really nice. And we see the biggest changes in the melee weapons. The Balesword is now a +1 strength. Previously it was user strength, and now basically it has the equivalent stat line like the Power Sword. The Bubotic Axe, as we saw for the Plague Marines, is a strength +2 weapon, AP -2 and damage 1. Previously it was only +1, so both these weapons increase their strength characteristic by 1, and now the Bubotic Axe is like the Power Axe. And finally, as we saw for the Plague Marines, the Flail of Corruption has decreased strength, so now it's down to strength +1. Previously it was +2. So how do the weapons compare with the new stat lines? That we have plus strength for the sword and the axe that are the standard weapon, and then 1 in 5 models can have the Flail of Corruption. Let's see how those compare. So in this graph, I'm looking at the comparison for the new stat melee weapons. And I'm assuming no Aura of Rust ability giving them more AP on a 6 to wound. And I have in this graph I have not taken into account the Contagion Aura of -1 toughness. I'm just looking at the base characteristics for 1 attack. So in this axis here you have the damage for 1 attack, The Flail, I still assume that one attack means D3 rolls per attack, so in this case it would be average 2 attacks. And in this graph we have different targets in this side, and as I said, the damage here, the actual damage dealt on average. And here is a bunch of targets that have 4+ invul save, and here we have targets with no invul save, and then they are grouped together by their armor save. So all these targets here have 2+ armor save, 3+, 4+, 5+, etc. And for each group, the toughness of the opponent target starts by toughness 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, going across here, and then again to 3 to 8 across the line. So here you can, for example, find an intercessor which has a 3+ armor save, no invul save, and toughness 4 is the target here. An aggressor is the next target here. Something like a captain with a very good armor save and 4+ invul save would be here with a toughness 4 or 5, depending on what it is. If you have orc boys with toughness 4 and 6+ save, no invul save, you have them here. So we see the Flail of Corruption still does most damage against all targets compared to the Balesword and the Bubotic Axe. The Bubotic Axe, the orange line, is better than the Balesword for most of the targets, and especially the targets where we have poor saves or where we have invul saves, because then the AP doesn't mean so much for this, and we have more strength, so we are probably wounding better for a majority of the targets. The Balesword is better than the Axe versus some targets with typically here we can see the blue line is higher than the orange line for some targets with higher with good armor saves. For example, here the intercessors, it's better to use the Balesword there rather than the Bubotic Axe, but for example for something like aggressors, then it's better to, or eradicators, toughness 5 things here, it's better to have the Bubotic Axe. But all in all, quite similar damage output from the Bubotic Axe and the Balesword. So let's look what happens if we add the -1 toughness for the Contagion being in effect. So when we have the Contagion in effect, the damage changes from the whole line to the dotted line. So here we see the Flail of Corruption. Then we are doing better damage because for select targets for some targets we are doing the same damage, but for others we are wounding one better here, and it's the same down here with of course both the Bubotic Axe and the Balesword get better with a -1 toughness. But we can see now that the Balesword is benefiting slightly more from the -1 toughness aura, and is doing better versus targets with 2+ armor save, 3+ armor save, and 4+ armor save compared to, and the low toughness compared to the Bubotic Axe. So still quite similar damage between the axe and the sword, but the sword is doing better with a little bit more targets here when we have the -1 toughness. And all in all, with the -1 toughness, as expected, we're doing more damage than when it's not in effect, if, for example, we take an ally detachment. If we compare the damage of the new stats with a new aura versus the old stats per attack, then basically we see that the Flail of Corruption, you can't see the dotted line. So here we have the green is the old, and the gray hidden behind is the old. So basically the Flail of Corruption has unchanged performance, and basically this is because that it lost 1 strength, but with the new aura the opponent loses 1 toughness. So all in all it's the same as it was before. So basically they had to reduce the strength to keep the damage output of the Flail to similar levels. They didn't want, I guess, to improve this weapon, which is really good, even more. The Balesword and the Bubotic Axe are significantly better now with the -1 toughness aura, because they got both an increase of the strength and the aura gives the opponent a decrease of toughness. So they are doing, for example, we see here the Balesword, the previous Balesword with dark blue here, and the dotted blue, we see it's better for a majority of targets. Also the Bubotic axe with the new Bubotic axe with a toughness aura is better than the previous Bubotic axe. So some squads comparison in melee. So if we take 5 Blightlord Terminators with Bubotic axes, or we take a squad of 5 Terminators with Baleswords, of course I don't know the points yet. And now they have the 3 attacks each, and the champion has 4. Here I'm taking 4 Terminators with axes, and 1 has the Flail of Corruption. And in comparison, we have a squad of 8 Plague Marines with upgraded Blight Launchers, and 2 of the guys, the maximum amount, have the Flails of Corruption. I'm simulating the melee with the -1 toughness aura, and of course no headful assault. So we have the Marines are doing 2 attacks, the Blightlord Terminators are doing 3 attacks. And here for some select targets, here is basically the graph comparing everything, and we see the Plague Marines, because they have the 2 flails, and now also the Plague Knives also benefit quite a lot from the -1 toughness. They actually do better damage than Blightlord Terminators that don't have the flail. So here we see the Blightlord Terminators with the axes and the swords, but the Plague Marines with 2 flails are better. And basically when the Blightlord Terminators take 1 Flail of Corruption, they become quite equal to the bigger squad of Plague Marines, and a bit better here. So we see for some select targets, for example a Primaris Captain with shield, we see the Blightlord Terminators with axes and 1 flail do 7 damage on average, while the Plague Marine squad in this case would be doing 6.5, so 1 would damage. The Intercessors, again 10 wounds for the Blightlords and 9 for the Plague Marines. Eradicators and Land Raider is similar effect. And we can see, for example, for the Orc Boys, then the Plague Marines are doing the most damage here. So the Blightlord Terminators, especially if they take the Flail, are a considerable force in melee. But again, as I've shown in some of my previous videos, I think a squad of Plague Marines also can do a lot of damage in melee. And in these squads also, here they can also do quite good in ranged with Blight Launchers, while in this case here they only have Combi Bolters for the points. But of course, this comparison, we have to wait until the final points to be able to see which one gives more value per point. So some summary and final thoughts. The Blightlord Terminators have got an increased movement to 5-inch, like Typhus leaked. So of course when a new codex comes, will this mean that we are losing the 4+ invul save? I think a lot of people in the forums are suggesting this, and I think also it sounds reasonable. We got 3 wounds as expected, +1 attack, like all other units we have seen in the rules for so far. And I think this, for me, it's a clear indication that we will be losing the Hateful Assault. It wasn't on Mortarion's datasheet. We have seen increased strength of the regular melee weapons. So the Balesword is +1 strength, the Bubotic axe is +2 strength, and the Balesword is basically now like a power sword, and the Bubotic axe is like a power axe, but they are plague weapons still. The Flail of Corruption has got reduced strength, like we saw in the Plague Marine review. All in all, we are doing better melee damage compared to the old rules, higher number of attacks, also when not charging, improved strength for the standard weapons, and in combination with the Contagion aura hampering the opponent's toughness. So the Flail, even if it got reduced strength, is unchanged in combination with it does equal amount of damage as before, in combination with the -1 toughness aura. So this concludes this short review of the Blightlord Terminators new datasheet and a special focus on their melee weapons. What do you think about the new melee weapons? What would you probably choose, axe or the sword? I know I have for my Blightlord Terminators, I have equal amounts of swords and axes, but most importantly, I think is to get the guy with the Flail of Corruption to, if you want to do a lot of melee damage. So if you like this video, please press like, leave some comments. What do you think about these changes? And subscribe to the channel where I will be posting more death card tactics, rules, reviews, and analysis of units going forward. So with these words, General Yannis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.